Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Ashwin, for the wonderful Mangalacharan. We are reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and we are on chapter 6. And chapter 6 is called the Dhyana Yoga. And today we are on text 43. Our mentor for today is Avinash Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Danvat Pranam. Thank you very
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you very much for joining this group. And since joining this group, we've really enjoyed communicating with you, discussing with you, and reflecting on all the texts of Bhagavad Gita. Just so that everybody, just because we have become a family, we don't ask each other questions, but I'd like to introduce Prabhuji. Prabhuji has been a devotee since the last 30 years. He did his Bhakti Shastri course in 2012-2013. He works in London. He has been a civil servant for the past 40 years, and currently he's working from home as a part-time management accountant, and any free time he spends on Krishna consciousness, and that is very reflective on the knowledge that he has. So we are very, very grateful that he is among us as a devotee and also today as our mentor. Prabhuji, on behalf of everybody, please accept our humble obeisances. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji will carry on the format that we have been carrying on, and then we can hand over to you after we reflect. Yes,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Just to reflect on that, I'm just still a learner and I'm still learning with you. So that's the main thing. So I'm trying as well. So
thank you.
Please excuse me. Yes, that's right.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for joining us. I know you are still learning and we have a long way. If you are learning, then we have a long, long way to go. So, and we don't have that much time. So thank you very much for being our inspiration. Okay, so let's start the text 43. Shashwin, if you can read the whole text and then we can do line by line. Shashwin, you unmute.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Tatratam buddhi samyogam labate paurvadehikam yatate chatato boya samsidao kurunandana. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashwin. Lata Mataji, can you read the line and we can follow you?
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Tatratam buddhi samyogam.
Tatratam buddhi samyogam.
Labade paurvadehiham.
Labade
Paurvadehikam.
Yadati chadato bhuya.
Yadate
Tato Bhuya.
Samsiddhau Guru Nandana.
Samsitau Guru Nandana.
Hare Krishna. Kruti, is it possible for you to read the line and we can follow you then? Kruti? Hare Krishna. Kruti, we can't hear you. You have unmuted, but we can't hear you. We are on text 43.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Tatratam buddhi samyogam.
Tatratam buddhi samyogam.
Labate paurva dehikam.
labate
Te Pauradehikam
Yata te chattata bhuya
Yata te cha tato
Tato Bhuya
samsiddhau kuru nandana.
samsitau
Kurunandana.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Kruti. ISKCON Eldoret, is George Prabhuji or other Prabhuji is there? Any other Prabhuji who
Hare
can?
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Kindly let me know your name, Prabhuji.
George.
George Prabhuji, please read one line and we'll follow you.
Tatratam buddhi samyoga
Tatratam
Tatratam
buddhi
Buddhi
samyogam
Samyogam
lobhate paurvadehikam
labhate paurate
Pauradehikam
yatate chatato bhuya
yatate cha tato bhuya
samsidhau kuru nandana.
samsidhau kuru nandana.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. George Prabhuji, who's next to you? David Prabhuji.
Yes, David Prabhuji.
Okay, David Prabhuji, please do the word to word.
Yes, what to what? Tatra,
Tatra,
thereupon,
thereupon,
tam,
tam,
that,
that,
buddhi samyogam,
buddhi samyogam,
revival of consciousness,
revival of consciousness,
labhate,
labhate,
gains,
gains,
pauruva, dekam,
paurade,
from the previous body,
from the previous body,
yatate,
yatate,
he endeavors, cha,
he endeavors,
cha,
cha,
also,
also,
tata, thereafter, bhuya, again,
bhuya,
sam, samsidhau,
samsidhau,
the perfection,
for perfection,
Perfection.
Guru Nandana,
Guru Nandana,
O son of Guru.
O son of Guru. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. We now move on to translation. David Prabhuji, is there another Prabhuji with you who can read the translation for us? ISKCON Eldoret.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, who is that?
It's on
Sorry?
George.
Okay. So George Prabhuji and David Prabhuji, is there another Prabhuji there?
No.
No, it's just the two of you. I thought there was somebody else. Okay. You can read the translation.
Yes.
Okay. Kindly read the translation, Prabhuji.
On taking such a bath, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Guru. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Kumar Prabhuji, can you read the translation? Can you read little by little and we can repeat after you?
Okay. Hare Krishna. On
Hare
taking
Krishna.
such a birth,
On taking such a bath,
he reviews the divine consciousness
he revives the divine consciousness
of his previous life,
of his previous life,
and he again tries
and he again tries
to make further progress in order to achieve complete success.
in order to achieve complete success.
O son of Guru.
O son of Guru. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prahlad, are you able to read the purport?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, Prahlad. Kindly read the purport. Hare Krishna.
King Bharata, who took his third birth in the family of a good Brahmana, is an example of good birth for the revival of precious transcendental consciousness.
Previous.
Sorry?
Revival of previous.
Revival of previous transcendental consciousness. King Bharata was the emperor of the world, and since his time, this planet has been known among the demigods as Bharat Varsa. Formerly, it was known as um, Ilavrita Varsa. The emperor, at an early age, retired for spiritual perfection but failed to achieve success. In his next life, he took birth in the family of a good Brahmana and was known as Jada Bharata because he always remained secluded and did not talk to anyone. And later on, he was discovered as the greatest transcendentalist by King Raugana. From his life, it is understood that transcendental endeavors or the practice of yoga never go in vain. By the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalist gets repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prahlad.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Divesh Prabhuji, are you able to give a reflection on this verse? Divesh Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Sorry, I've just joined in and I'm in a place where I can't really give anything yet. I'll have a...
Okay, just listen to us then.
Please excuse me, I'll listen to you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, let's reflect on this verse. Anybody has any questions or contributions or comments? What is this verse talking about? Kruti?
Hare Krishna. Okay. I was not in the previous verses. I'm not so sure about who they're talking about. But what I can say is that it's talking about how progress in Krishna consciousness it never goes in vain. Since this Bharata, King Bharata, after many births, he still has an opportunity. Like after taking birth in a Brahmana family, he has the opportunity to continue with his Krishna consciousness. So yeah, that's all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. You've hit the right spot. Prahlad, do you have anything to add on this?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell us.
Okay, so in one of the previous texts, I believe Arjuna was questioning Krishna, on when one does not attain perfection in mysticism. I believe that was text 37. Yeah, so basically, even everyone else here, I bet you they had the same question. What if they didn't do well on the path of Krishna consciousness? So here, it's answered further, and I believe also in the previous text, which we had discussed yesterday, I believe. Here we are being told that, okay, we were given the story about, Jada Bharata and this also great transcendentalist. Uh, he was a great transcendentalist. That's what I'm understanding here. So basically, after all that, we are being told here by Srila Prabhupada that by the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalist gets repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness. So even if you feel that you didn't do well in your path of Krishna consciousness, yeah, like you were just doing 16, but you feel like you could have done more than that, you could have even gotten Brahmin initiation, you could have been a sannyasi or even greater. The Lord, by his grace, he gives this opportunity, so that you become better at it and not just reach one heavenly platform and stay there for the rest of your life when you didn't expect that. So that's basically all I have to say right now.
Thank you very much, Prahlad, for your contribution. Then I have a question. So if we are told that, okay, if you don't succeed this birth, you have next birth and you have next birth and you have next birth. So then doesn't that deflect us from our real position, in the sense we say, okay, chalta hai, we have not done this time, we'll do it in the next birth. Doesn't it discourage us?
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I respond?
Yes, please.
Mm. In yesterday's lecture, they mentioned that there is a sense of urgency in everything. You see, I think Madan Gopal Prabhuji said in everything we have to have a sense of urgency. But it's also not a discouragement, meaning any effort that we put towards Krishna consciousness doesn't go to waste. So we'll never go reverse. It's like it's a safe what do you call it? It's a secure platform we are in, that you'll never go down from this ladder. You can only go up. Now, how quickly you want to get up should come from within you, inside. But also it should not discourage you that as much as you've tried, sometimes there are karmas and other obstacles that we have from our previous lives that we still have to bear and go through. And I think with Krishna consciousness, it just makes it a bit easier for us to get there. So I don't think we should be discouraged at all. We should actually be very encouraged that, look, this is the minimum we'll be able to do. We'll always go up the ladder.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Any other questions or comments? Okay, till you all are thinking, I have another question. So this is the first time, at least I think it's the first time, that Shri Krishna is referred to Arjun as O son of Kuru. Usually he says Parth, or he says friend, or he refers to him as lots of other names, endearing names. But this time he has referred to him as son of Kuru. So why is that? Is he referring to Arjun or another son of Kuru, or is he now getting annoyed and saying, oh, son of Kuru, or why is this mentioned over here as oh, son of Kuru? Hare Krishna, anybody can take me out of my misery? At least try to help me.
Do you want me to give you an answer of what I think why he's mentioned as son of Guru?
Yeah.
So basically, as you can see on the purport by Srila Prabhupada, he's mentioning King Bharat, who took actually the sannyas afterwards. And similarly, Arjun, actually, he comes from the royal side of the family. And he is actually reflecting based on his, because he was quite well off. Arjun was quite well off. So he actually took birth in that well-off family. And so just to say, because you take your credits, whatever the credits, that's how you are born. So reflecting as Guru here is to reflect on his dynasty.
Thank
That's
you
what.
for
That's
that.
what my yeah.
Thank you very much. Any more questions or comments or additions before we hand over to Prabhuji? Okay, Prabhuji, I think it's a short purport. That's why people don't have much to say, and we have been
Yeah, it is very short, and I think I'm going to probably slightly more expand on the story of Bharat Maharaj
Yes.
and Jad Bharat, because it's very relevant in this text, and also Prabhupada has given us the purport on it. So just slightly expand on it. But just before I start, I'll just start with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So yeah, just to reflect on this, we are talking about the chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. So I don't know how many of you have seen the Gita in acronym form. Have you, anyone heard of Gita in acronym form by Sutapa Prabhu? So maybe you should get hold of that copy, which is actually giving you basically a summary of Bhagavad Gita, and sometimes it's very easy to remember what overall Gita is about. So for this chapter 6, I can just read a few things. This is the part of Ashtanga Yoga, which is explained in its entirety. Krishna's purpose in discussing the 8-step path is simply to establish its impracticality for the purpose of self-realization and spiritual perfection. In an age surcharged with temptation, distraction, and spiritual weakness, the easiest and the most advanced path of self-realization is Bhakti Yoga. Now, I mentioned about the acronyms form of the Bhagavad Gita, which Sutta Prabhu has given us. Now, the acronym for this chapter of Bhagavad Gita, sorry, people say Bhagavad Gita, but it's not Bhagavad Gita. We should always pronounce it as Bhagavad Gita, because that's how in reality it's called Bhagavad Gita. When there is there is line on top of the A, we say Bhagavat, but in this one we say Bhagavad Gita. So the acronyms on this one is easy. So E, first of all, it stands for the first few texts, first text 1 to 9. So E stands for enemy or friend. So if you remember, we say our mind can be enemy or friend. So E stands for enemy or friend. So that's the first bit. Then we have got A. I'm not going to read the details, but I'm just giving you an acronym. A stands for Ashtanga Yoga, which is text 10 to 36 of this chapter. So Ashtanga Yoga was very much covered about the eightfold yoga system, and that was covered mainly between 10 to 36. Then S stands for success and failure, which is we are discussing now. Text 37 to 45, it's talking about success or failure. What if you success in this yoga system? What would happen to you? Basically, if you success, you go back to Godhead, or you liberate. If you fail, and the answer for failure is this in one of the texts. The text we'll be discussing here as well. And finally, why is a yogi? Who is the true yogi? And that's what we'll be discussing in text 46 and 47. So that's the acronym for this. So if you can remember easy, you say, oh, chapter 6, what does it discuss about? So you will know actually easy is the one we are discussing. So easy, enemy or friend. So Ashtanga Yoga. So S, success or failure. And Y, yogi, who is the true yogi. So if you remember easy, then you will remember the chapter 6, what chapter 6 is talking about. Okay, so that was briefly. So if you can get something on that from it's done by Sutapa Prabhu. So okay. Sorry to get slightly diverted here because my son was in the room. So I'll just start with the bit we are talking about here, 43. On taking such birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life. And he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. O son of Guru. So whatever endeavor we do in Bhakti Yoga, that is never lost. Even in current life, if devotee falls down, he never loses his Bhakti points. So you always retain your Bhakti points. Our Bhakti in this life is like a transcendental balance. So it is a balance that we have. So going to the story of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj, he was a great emperor of the entire planet. Everyone in his kingdom was very happy. He was pious and he decided to retire from the kingly duties and went to forest. He was living simply. He followed Krishna consciousness and being a Vaishnava, actually, he was very compassionate. So every Vaishnava's quality is to be compassionate, and there are so many other qualities of Vaishnava. So once, when he was meditating, and after taking bath in river Gandaki, so this is when he retired. He say, I don't want the kingdom, I better retire, and I concentrate on my spiritual progress. So he was meditating in the, by the river Gandaki. So he saw a deer who was pregnant deer, expecting. And so when he saw deer, and after just a while, he heard a thundery roar of lion. So deer was there by the river, was about, came to drink water. Actually was so scared. And in that moment, he actually delivered a baby deer and he ran. And also while he ran, he also died. So just try to remember. So Bharat Maharaj was very compassionate, as we know. Upon his upon seeing the baby calf, he was feeling very sorry because he was very compassionate. So he gradually became attracted to this young deer, and he actually took care of it. And after he took care, he was always with the deer, and he took care of the deer very much, very nicely, and the deer grew up. So Maharaj Bharat's constant companion, he was always constant companion, and he took care of it, as I said, and gradually he became so absorbed in thinking of this deer that his mind became agitated. He became more attached to deer. His devotional service slackened. Although he was able to give up his opulent kingdom, he was still attached to the deer. Then he fell down from his mystic yoga practice. Once when deer was absent, Maharaj Bharat was so disturbed that he began to search for it. While searching and lamenting the deer's absence, Maharaj Bharat fell down and actually died. So because his mind was fully absorbed thinking of the deer, he naturally took his next birth from the womb of a deer. However, because he was constantly or considerably advanced spiritually, he did not forget his past activities. Even though he was in the body of the deer, so he remembered it. So he could understand how he had fallen down from his exalted position. And remembering this, he left his mother deer and again went to Pulaha Ashrama, where he was meditating initially. So he finally ended his life in near Pulaha Ashram. And when he died, he was released from the deer's body. So when he was released from the deer's body, he actually was born in a Brahmana family next afterwards. But when he was born in a Brahmana, he presented himself as very much dumb and a fool. So he was called a Jad Bharat. So his brother was ashamed of his brothers actually were ashamed of him, and they didn't like him and still acted the same. So then always stayed away from him. So Jad Bharat, because he knew they were materialists, he stayed away from them. His father tried to teach him Gayatri and the Yagna, all the Brahminical qualities, but he was like, he wouldn't respond to that. So once actually, Bharat, he seated himself on the shadow of a tree and rested. Now, as it happened, that a king of the country was passing by, King Rahuguna. I think he's mentioned in this purport as well. So he was carried in on a palanquin with the servants were carrying him, and one of the carrier or the servants was ill. So when the king's servants saw Jad Bharat, they caught hold of him and placed him on his they say you should hold the palanquin. So Jad Bharat just, without noticing, because he was like that, he just carried on. So without speaking a word, he was on doing this duty. So very soon after this, king remarked. So he noticed that the palanquin was actually moving side by side. So it was very awkward for the king who was seated there. So actually, he asked Jad Bharat, he said, "You fool, you should rest. If your shoulders are pain, you should rest for a while." But Jada Bharat actually responded to the king. Now, actually, he was trying to step away from the ants, but he actually, Jada Bharat said, "My dear king." He also replied. He said other words as well. Um, Whatever you have said about me is true. He said, "You think I'm fool? Yeah, I'm fool. You seem to think that I have not labored hard enough to carry this palanquin. That is true. Because I am carrying this palanquin, I'm not carrying this palanquin at all. My body is doing it, but I am not my body. You accuse me of being very stout and strong, but this is merely shows your ignorance of the spirit soul. The body may be fat or thin, weak or strong, but the soul is neither fat or skinny." Jar Bharat then began to instruct the fiery king. "You think you are a lord and a master, and you are trying to command me, but that is also incorrect. Today you are king, and I am your servant. But in your next life, the roles may be reversed. Everyone is forced to act by the laws of material nature. Therefore, no one is master and no one is servant." So this is what Jada Bharat um, mentioned to the King Rahaguna. So King Rahaguna, when who had been previously educated in spiritual science, was astonished to hear the teachings of the Jada Bharata. Recognizing as a saintly person, the king descended from his palanquin and fell humbly to the ground with his head at the feet of the holy man. So, and he said, "O saintly person, O spiritual master, I am blind in spiritual knowledge. Please tell me, how may I advance in spiritual life?" So Jarbharat replied, "Because the mind is full of material desires," that's what he said, "the soul takes on a different bodies to enjoy and suffer the pleasures and pains brought on by material activities." Jadbharat then revealed his own past lives. He, he continued his teachings by informing the king that those who wish to escape from the cycle of birth and death must constantly associate with the pure and learned devotees of the Lord. After receiving lessons from the great devotees, King Rahugana became fully aware of the true position of the soul and gave up completely the conception of bodily conceptions of life. So yesterday we talked about what was, because um, King, King Bharat actually, when he was in the forest, he was alone. So because he was alone, he became attached to that deer. If he had devotees around him, he wouldn't have actually become attached, because devotees would have saved him. So, talking about this, just I was reading or listening to something else um, on this text. Um, it says, when I was the person says, Krishna described a trajectory of a person, position of a yogi who has temporarily lost their way. Yogi who has carried out some spiritual life but has some substantial spiritual outstanding goes to the heavenly planet and returns back to the earthly planet. So his remaining spiritual credits remain. So, and he takes either takes birth in a Brahminical family or the wealthy family, like we discussed yesterday. So how comes previous body actually has been destroyed and carried away. So how comes to you? We know previous body has been destroyed, but we still are remembering. So our subtle part of the body is actually carries our impressions from previous life to this life. So when yogi has carried out his duties, it creates the impressions on our subtle body. This could be positive or negative. Positive impression help us to carry out our spiritual life steadily. So part of our subtle body, which is intelligence, becomes spiritually inclined. So that is the key thing. So we should be concentrating more on a spiritual life. So I'm just going to say a few words about what I read. Prabhupada actually didn't comment too much on this verse, but because he covered the lectures from 41 to 45. So I'll just read few things which Prabhupada said. And he said, without Krishna consciousness, I do not know what my next body is going to be. But if I am advanced in Krishna consciousness or spiritual consciousness, never mind even little percentage it may be, I'm sure to get the chance of another human body. So I'm sure that even if I do little percentage of it, I will get a chance to get in a human body. So even if you do 5, 10%, 20%, people like that. So imagine people chanting the 16 rounds and doing so much. So their percentage increases so much. So he says, therefore, even from the mundane point of view, everyone should take KC or Krishna consciousness. It is says, Tatra tam buddhi samyagam labate purva dehikam. The asset is there. Suppose I had a bank balance of 10 million. As soon as my body is finished, the bank balance is finished. That item is enjoyed by somebody else. But you, so there is no loss. When you actually spiritually inclined, then your spiritual progress is not a loss. So that is which is carried with you in your next life. So he said, then if you have 10% of your spiritual balance, then in your next life you begin with 11%. The aim should be, now let me finish the balance percentage in this life, so I shall not take chance of another birth. Purva dehikam. When I have come to this point, it must be understood that I had asset from previous life and Krishna is giving me a chance to make further progress. So we should always think in that sort of terms, that we have got this chance and Krishna is giving us this opportunity to finish our business in this life and progress to spiritual life in our next body or spiritual body. So yeah, that's me. Few of the verses which are relevant to this as well. For instance, King Bharat, actually we don't remember what our previous life has been like for our benefit, but King Bharat remembered the previous life. So Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15, Sarvasya Chaham Ridhisani Vishtu. It says, I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known indeed. I am compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna can make us forget, Krishna can make us remember. It's, that's how he is. And I think he's making us forget for our own benefit. Then other thing is, the end state of life. 8.5, chapter 8 is actually how you should live your life and what you should be doing. By the reminder for us is to constantly remembering the Lord. So 8.5 says, and whoever at the end of life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attained my nature. Of this there is no doubt. So if you remember Lord in your last minute, you will attain the spiritual world. 8.6 says, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So those are the few verses which actually give us a guarantee what we are doing is actually for our benefit. So I'll finish here. If anyone's got any comments or questions, any additions, if any mistakes I've made. So, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for telling us the story of Jad Bharat. At least I didn't know the whole elaborate story that you told us, and how he lifted the palki and he was trying to avoid the ants. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. We really learned a lot. I learned a lot. Prabhuji, then why does Krishna consciousness? So I'm sure in this group, at least, people have probably done some Krishna conscious activities in their previous birth, and therefore they are now attracted to Krishna consciousness. But why does it come to some people very early in life and to some people very late in life? For example, it has come to me so late in life. So, but the rest of the devotees, probably like Kruti and Prahlad and Divyash Prabhuji and all, and you also, Prabhuji, you have been practicing since 25 years. So, how come you have got it earlier and some of us are getting it at the end of our lives? Prabhuji, you are muted. Prabhuji, you are muted.
So only answer I have for that is based on this actually. Whatever Krishna makes us remember, Sarvasya Chaham Vidishani Vishto. So he also makes us forget. So it very much depends on our desire and our impressions from the previous life. So if our previous life has been that and we immediately remember all our previous life, and Krishna makes us remember based on our pious activities from previous life. So sometimes it also depends on the mercy of the devotee. So you can sometimes get, like, I don't know whether you know the story of Jagai and Madai. They got mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they were so, they were drinking and all that. And they did hit Nityananda Prabhu in his head and things like that. But he's here to save us. And he said, you are here so merciful, so you should actually let them go. And they actually became a very good devotees afterwards. So it very much depends. So as I said, sometimes our desires are like that since birth. And when you grow up, and our association with other people is also like that. So depending on us, so sometimes with the association, even the great devotee forgets, because you get association of people who are going partying or watching a lot of TV, watching a lot of cinemas, which I used to do, when I was in Africa. My background is in Tanzania. I was born in Tanzania. So things like that. My friend were such, that you go to cinemas now. They escape from the boarding. We used to run away from the boarding and go to the cinemas. So these are all the things because of the friend circle you have. So if just in case if I had a friend circle who were devotees, and I was fortunate enough, I would have followed that path. So yeah, so it very much depends really.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I was also born in Tanzania in Dar es Salaam.
Okay.
So, Hare Krishna. Any more questions or comments? Today it's a small group. These days we don't get Joli Mataji joining us. I guess she's probably doing another course or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, I think this is a repetition. It's been going on since the last 5 days. So probably that's why we've exhausted all the questions. Kumar Prabhuji, do you have a question? You have unmuted.
Yes, Karishna Mataji, Karishna Prabhuji, very nice explanation, Prabhuji, with good examples. Still more clarification, Prabhuji. The way Madaji asked the question also you explained. It's like me, I started Bhakti Yoga just 1 year before, after 40 years. So I started Bhakti Yoga. My background is, we can say the meat eater family. So since I started, everything just stopped. I never even tried it, just stopped everything. I even in onion garlic. So this, I feel this positive. But some taken birth in good Brahman family who follow all the spheres. But their children, maybe 2 children, 1 children follow the parents' way. Other children even go very, very bad way, even addicted with the drugs. So what about that one, Prabhuji?
Well, again, it is to do with association. I don't know whether you know the story of Ajamil. The Ajamil story comes in Srimad Bhagavatam as well. So Ajamil was a Brahmin, and somehow in his youth time, he saw a man and woman together, and when he saw that, he was so much attracted to that. And that woman was a prostitute. So he actually was so attracted to the prostitute. So he became like his desire was from doing the Brahminical, duties to change into that sort of duties. And he was so much engrossed in that prostitute. But with his fortune, because he did so much of the pious work earlier on, he had visitors who were Brahmins who came to visit his house. And at that time, his wife was pregnant, and he says, "You name your son or whoever as Narayan, whoever is born, or Lakshmi, So they said, "You name your son Narayan." He was so bad, but he was still attached to his son. So at the time of death, he actually remembered Narayan. So when he remembered Narayan, there was Yamaduta who came, and there was Krishna Dutas who came, because he said Narayan. Krishna said, "Oh, he's saying my name here." So Krishna sent his Duta. So there was this clash between Dutas, and Krishna Dutas actually said, because he said Narayan, so he was saved. And afterwards, he continued with because he was saved, he continued with his pious, he went to Haridwar and started meditating, and then he got liberation afterwards. So the thing is that, again, born in a Brahmin family, if you have got the bad association, you tend to fall down from that, qualities of Brahmin you have. So I've seen so many Brahmins, even in UK. They go and they eat meat. So people like you have stopped eating meat, but those Brahmins who are originally born in a Brahmin family, they are eating meat now. So they say you are Brahmin by your actually what you do, rather than you are born in a Brahmin family. So whatever you are doing, you become Brahmin. That's why we have got Brahminical initiation in ISKCON as well. So once you qualified, you become you get a Brahminical initiation. I hope that answers your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Well explained.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Kruti has a question. Kruti, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna. My
Hare Krishna.
question is actually not related to today's text, but I was just wondering, the deities in the temple, it is kept in two, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So I've not heard much about Lord Nityananda. So if you could explain a little.
About Lord Nityananda.
Yes.
Okay, so Lord Chaitanya, if I explain it in a simple term for your understanding, Lord Chaitanya actually is he is a golden avatar. He came in the mood of Radharani, but as Krishna. So he's like he wanted to find out the mood of Radharani, how her mood was. So he came in the mood of Radharani. So he's Gaura. Nityananda is actually Adi Guru. And Adi Guru, I don't know whether you know the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram. So Balaram actually is Nityananda. So Nityananda is a Balaram. So he's Adi Guru. So that's why we say Nityananda is so merciful. He's like our Guru. He actually takes us to the Lord. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So so that's what it is. I don't know whether you want me to explain any further.
Oh, that's fine. I've understood. Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We've exhausted our time, but if is there any other burning question or comment? Prahlad, do you have a question?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I think let us unmute ourselves and chant the Maha Mantra to glorify Prabhuji and really thank him for such an enlightening class. Prabhuji, we learned a lot today. Thank you very much. Let's all chant for Prabhuji. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare. Vancha kalpa
Vanja
tarubhyascha
kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa
kripa sindhu
Sindhuvaivacha,
bhyayevacha patitanam
Patitanam Pavanebhyo,
pavanebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo,
vaishnavebhyo
Namo
namo.
Namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jai,
Shri Avinash Prabhuji ki Jai.
Jai,
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Jai Bol.